I guess my earliest creative outlets would be, I was always the kid in school that would be like drawing things from like comic books or little murals at school. Yeah, I always was a big fan of monster movies and things like that. There was actually a craze in the early 60s to mid 70s where there were these old monster models that would come out, and my dad and I used to build those. And they were like the Frankenstein, the Dracula, Creature from the Black Lagoon, all that sort of thing. And then Buffalo, the local TV station, would have something called Movies for a Sunday Afternoon, and they would play like Mysterious Island with Ray Harryhausen's animated things. What else? Hilarious House of Frightenstein out of CHCH TV was a big one. That was something you would watch all the time. If anyone knows what that is, they should watch it. It's pretty cool. There was a big monster culture back in those days. And the Monster Mash was every Halloween was playing, so there was quite a big group of things to draw from for a kid. I guess the first time I was actually aware of art direction in a movie, an art director would be Anton Furst from the Batman movies. But other than that, it was just sort of an anonymous thing where you'd be watching an episode of Star Trek for the first time, or Logan's Run, or any of the old sci-fi films. And that's where art direction, where you're creating a world, went to the forefront of things. So I guess that would be the first time that you noticed it. But you never really sat there and say, "Oh, I'm going to go see that movie directed by that art director." It was just sort of an anonymous crew thing. The first time I combined the art and the camera, I guess, would be around 1977 when I got the local neighborhood kids together and we did our own version of the $6 Million Man. We had one kid running, doing slow motion things, jumping over stuff. I also did some stop motion animation back in the day, and I guess the one fun thing that how things went full circle. That was the very first thing I did, this Bionic Kid movie, and then many years later I ended up working on Bionic Showdown. I first found out about the brain. I was working on as a PA. I was just out of film school, and I was working as a PA on a TV series called The Campbells. And as a PA driver, you would pick up the actors in the morning, drive them out to the set west of Toronto, and then you would work the rest of the day as a PA. Byron Patchett, who was the props master at the time, said when the show was winding down the first year, he says, "Listen, they knew I could draw, so that was kind of a bonus thing." Byron asked me, he said, "Hey, I've got this feature coming up. I'm going to be art directing it. Would you like to be my first assistant?" So I said, sure. This was like, I guess, the fall of '87. And it was called The Brain, and Bright Star Films. And yeah, off I went. I can't remember what I made on it. It was something, I think it was $1,000 a week or something like that. But it was like, money, kind of a fun horror movie. Didn't really know anything about it or anybody who was doing it. It was just like, it was just going to be a hoot to put together, because it was the art department and we got to make monster bits and brain goo and all that sort of stuff. So that was the first time I heard about The Brain. Well, The Brain you see behind me was one of 3 original brains. Obviously most of the people who've seen the movie knows this is brain number 3. Brain number 1 was created. Well, they were all created by a fellow by the name of Mark Williams, who came in from Los Angeles with the brains to do it. He worked in the shop to make little adjustments here and there. This is brain number 3. Brain number 1 had no face. Brain number 2 gave birth to a face and was smaller, and it was in its little brain puppet box with the green brain goo in it, and then the props man was underneath it, wiggling it just to make it move. But this was brain number 3, and the reason that I have brain number 3 is I basically pulled it out of a dumpster at the end of shooting. because they just didn't want it anymore. The original Brain, when it was supposed to blow up, they weren't sure if how well it was going to blow up or not, but evidently they were happy with how it blew up, so they didn't need this, which was the backup brain face. This was the first movie I'd ever done, and the brain face is we just throw so much stuff in the film business. The things I really wanted were the claws that break through the wall to attack the girl at the beginning of the movie, but the producer, Tony Cramrider, beat me to it. He grabbed those, and all that was left was this. And it was pretty good. So the brain comes out here. I don't put it on my wall all the time. It's down basically in the basement storage room, but the brain comes out every Halloween out in front of the house for the kids, and sometimes we pass candies out through the mouth, and it's pretty impressive for the kids. In day-to-day production, the art department wasn't really involved that much. We were kind of we kind of led everything and got everything ready for all the different scenes. So the carpentry shop would be working, on making Psychological Research Institute signage, or the sets. Roderick Main was the set designer. And he was responsible for most of the things. The coolest thing that he did was he had straws and paper clips and cards, and that's how they figured out how to collapse the room at the beginning of the movie. And we're all all the art department is there pushing on the back, but we kind of led the charge and had to have everything ready for production. At least a day before they were going to roll in. For the most part, we were working out of a factory in downtown Toronto. Most of it was very cold, but we had our little, the management offices outside of the main factory was where the art department was, and we stayed pretty warm there, working on our old Amiga computers or the drafting table or that sort of thing. The other thing about working on the brain in production is it's given me I always win the longest day ever shooting story. There was, when you're around the crew and you're on a commercial or a TV show, they'll be claiming, oh yeah, we went 28 hours that day, we went 3 hours into overtime or something like that. And I said, listen, I worked on a movie called The Brain, and it's the longest day I've ever heard anyone work in the film business. There was something that happened where we had to have the movie finished by the Monday, the start of the next business week, or there would be some major financial problem. I'm not sure what it was. That was not my department. But we started at 7 o'clock in the morning on the Friday, worked straight through all day Friday, all day Saturday, and we wrapped at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, and we finished the movie. I do not know how Ed Hunt stayed awake that whole time. I do not know how all the actors stayed awake that whole time. People were falling asleep in shifts, so the cameraman would fall asleep and let his assistant rig lights. This was the very last scenes of the film where the brain blows up, and they're being chased through the bowels of the PRI warehouse, where he finds the big bottle of sodium. And that was the longest day I ever worked in the film business in 37 years. The first time I saw the movie with an audience would have been, at the Scarborough Town Centre, a small little Cineplex theatre. There were four, if I recall correctly, there were four cinemas in Toronto that were showing the movie. We bought some friends of mine. It was very sparsely populated. I think we went in there the first night, which I think was a Friday. It was actually turned into a kind of a fun time because people were talking to the screen and all that sort of thing, even back in those days. And then my friends waited till the credits rolled by, and then they see my name come by. It took a long time for first assistant art director to come up. And then they just started cheering for me. And then a whole bunch of people came back into the theater to see what the heck was going on. And they asked me, oh, did you work on that? And I said, oh yeah, just a little bit. After The Brain, I did a couple more small Canadian features. Then I bailed away into the commercial land, and I guess I production design for commercials. I also do storyboard illustration, and I think my count for all things commercial is around 3,000 over the last bunch of years. So that's where I mainly do that. And the thing about why I switched to commercials personally was there's more money in it, and you're basically sure that you're going to get paid. With some of the lower budget features, it is a challenge, it has been a challenge to get your final check. I just wanted to have something that was, fairly steady, and that you're not working on too long and pretty much sure you're going to get paid. I guess I first realized that there was a fan base for The Brain when I was contacted by you guys. I had no idea. I knew it was on YouTube, and I'd seen it on YouTube and a couple of times, but I had absolutely no idea that it has taken off quite the way it has, and people are still interested in it and having a good time with it. So I always thought when we were doing it that if it had been played more for comedy than the serious nature that what it was, it would have been Scary Movie way before Scary Movie was Scary Movie. If it had been written like Airplane, it could have been kind of, I won't say huge, but it would have had an even bigger following than it does now. I kind of think that The Brain still has its staying power because it's a bit of an 80s throwback to 50s B movies. And in the 80s, Elvira and people like that are looking back at 50s and 60s movies and goofing on them a little. And I think The Brain has allowed the current generation to go back and see a 50s B movie shot in the 80s and have a little bit of fun with it.